The war had lasted for 700 years, and the Galactic Alliance was losing. Commander Kale Voreth stood at the observation deck of the flagship Eternal Dawn, watching another planet fall to the Vorn Dominion. The blue world of Tellara Prime burned below, its cities reduced to ash, its people scattered like leaves in a cosmic storm. The Vorn were merciless. They consumed everything in their path, spreading across the galaxy like a plague that could not be stopped. "Commander," said a soft voice behind him, "the Council requests your presence." Kale did not turn around. He knew the voice belonged to Lieutenant Sira Malik, a young officer who had served under him for 3 years. She was one of the few humans left in the Alliance military. Most of their kind had been wiped out when Earth fell 2 centuries ago. "Tell them I will be there shortly," Kale said. He took one last look at Tellara Prime, another world lost, another billion lives gone. The Alliance had started this war with 40,000 planets under its protection. Now they had less than 300. At this rate, they would be extinct within a decade. The walk to the council chamber felt longer than usual. Kale passed through corridors filled with soldiers from a dozen different species. There were the tall, blue-skinned Arthani with their 4 arms and gentle eyes. There were the small, furry Kesari who scurried about on quick feet. There were the crystalline Dravoth, their bodies glowing with inner light. And there were humans, scattered here and there, always watching, always alert. Humans were the youngest species in the Alliance. They had only joined 500 years ago when their first faster-than-light ships had stumbled into Arthani space. At first, the other races had looked down on them. Humans were small, weak, and short-lived. They had no natural weapons, no special abilities, no psychic powers. They were soft creatures from a soft world. But the war had changed everything. The council chamber was a vast circular room at the heart of the Eternal Dawn. 12 seats surrounded a central platform, each one occupied by a representative of the Alliance's founding species. High Arbiter Thalan of the Arthani sat at the head of the table, his 4 hands folded in his lap. His ancient eyes regarded Kale with a mixture of hope and despair. "Commander Voreth," Thalan said, "thank you for coming. You asked for me, High Arbiter, I am here." "We have received disturbing news from our scouts," Thalan continued. "The Vorn have discovered the location of the Nexus Gate." A murmur ran through the chamber. Kale felt his stomach tighten. The Nexus Gate was a myth, a legend passed down through countless generations. It was said to be a doorway to the realm of the architects, the ancient beings who had created the galaxy billions of years ago. According to legend, whoever controlled the Nexus Gate could reshape reality itself. "That is impossible," said Representative Kara of the Dravoth. Her crystalline body flickered with agitation. "The Nexus Gate is just a story. It does not exist." "Our scouts say otherwise," Thalan replied. "They have traced Vorn fleet movements to a region of uncharted space in the Outer Rim. The energy signatures match the ancient texts perfectly. The Vorn believe they have found it." "If they reach the gate before we do, the war is over," said General Marek of the Kesari. His small form trembled with fear. "We cannot let them have that power." "That is why we have called Commander Voreth here today," Thalan said. He looked at Kale with those ancient, knowing eyes. "We need someone to lead an expedition to find the gate before the Vorn. Someone brave enough to face the unknown. Someone clever enough to solve the puzzles of the architects. Someone desperate enough to risk everything." "You want to send a human," Kale said flatly. "Yes," Thalan admitted. "We have studied the ancient texts for centuries, Commander. They speak of a chosen one who will find the gate and claim its power. The texts describe this person in very specific terms." He paused, as if choosing his words carefully. "They describe a being who is young among the stars, fragile in body but strong in spirit, short in years but long in courage. A being who knows both great suffering and great hope. A being who has lost everything and yet refuses to give up." "That could describe anyone," Kale said. "Perhaps," Thalan agreed. But the texts also say this being will come from a world of blue oceans and green lands, a world that orbits a yellow star, a world that has already been destroyed. The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew what Thalin meant. Earth had been destroyed by the Vorn 200 years ago. Its blue oceans had boiled away. Its green lands had burned to ash. Its yellow sun still shone, but it shone on nothing but ruins. "You think the prophecy refers to humans," Kale said slowly. "I think the prophecy refers to you, Commander Vorath," Thalin replied. "You are the last descendant of the old Earth bloodlines. Your family can trace its history back to the very beginning of human civilization. You carry something in your blood that no other human possesses, something ancient and powerful." Kale shook his head. "I am just a soldier. I have no special powers, no unique abilities. I am nothing." "That is exactly what the prophecy says the Chosen One will believe," Thalin said with a sad smile. "The texts say he will deny his destiny until the very end. But destiny has a way of finding us, Commander, whether we want it to or not." Lieutenant Sira Malik was waiting for Kale when he returned to his quarters. She had already heard the news somehow. She always seemed to know things before anyone else. "So you are going to find the Nexus Gate," she said. It was not a question. "The Council has asked me to lead the expedition," Kale replied. "I have not agreed to anything yet." "But you will," Sira said. "You always do what is right, even when it costs you everything." Kale sat down heavily on his bed. He was tired, so tired. He had been fighting this war for his entire adult life, and he had nothing to show for it except scars and memories of dead friends. How many people had he watched die? How many worlds had he failed to save? "Why do they think I can do this?" he asked quietly. "I am nobody. I have failed at everything." Sira sat down beside him. "You saved my life on Korriban Station," she said. "You held the line at the Battle of Three Suns when everyone else ran. You evacuated 10,000 civilians from Tellara Prime before the Vorn arrived. You are not nobody, Commander. You are a hero." "Heroes win," Kale said bitterly. "I just survive while others die." "Surviving is winning," Sira replied. "As long as you are alive, there is hope. That is what makes humans special, Commander. We never give up. We never stop fighting. Even when everything seems lost, we keep going." Kale looked at her young face, so full of determination and faith. She reminded him of himself, back when he was young and naive enough to believe in things like destiny and hope. That seemed like a lifetime ago. "Will you come with me?" he asked. Sira smiled. "I thought you would never ask." The next morning, Kale stood before the council and accepted the mission. He would take a small team to the Outer Rim, find the Nexus Gate before the Vorn, and somehow claim its power for the Alliance. It was a suicide mission, really. The chances of success were so small they could barely be measured. But Kale was human, and humans had a long history of doing impossible things. The expedition ship was called the Last Hope. It was a small vessel, barely large enough for a crew of 10, but it was fast and quiet, designed for stealth rather than combat. Kale hand-picked his team carefully. Besides Sira, he chose 8 others, 4 humans and 4 aliens who had proven themselves in battle time and time again. As the Last Hope left the Eternal Dawn behind and jumped into hyperspace, Kale looked back at the fleet one last time. Somewhere out there, the Vorn were gathering their forces. Somewhere out there, the Nexus Gate waited to be found. And somewhere out there, the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. "Course set for the Outer Rim," Sira announced from the pilot's seat. "Estimated time of arrival, 3 weeks." 3 weeks, Kale repeated softly. 3 weeks to find a mythical artifact that might not even exist. 3 weeks to save the galaxy from extinction. 3 weeks to become the hero everyone believed he was. He had faced longer odds before. He had fought harder battles. But something about this mission felt different. Something in the air, something in his blood, Something in the very fabric of space itself seemed to whisper that his destiny was finally calling. Kale Voreth did not believe in destiny, but as the stars streaked past the viewport and the unknown beckoned ahead, he could not shake the feeling that destiny believed in him. The journey to the outer rim took them through the darkest and most dangerous regions of the galaxy. The last hope traveled through dying star systems and empty voids where no ship had ventured in thousands of years. Each day brought new challenges, new dangers, and new mysteries. On the fifth day, they encountered a field of ancient wreckage floating in space. Millions of ships, some larger than cities, drifted in the endless black. Their designs were unlike anything Kale had ever seen, curved and organic where modern ships were angular and mechanical. "These ships are billions of years old," said Dr. Thex, the expedition's Dravoth scientist. Her crystalline body pulsed with blue light as she analyzed the readings. "They predate the formation of the Alliance by millions of generations. This must have been a great battle, perhaps the last battle of the architects themselves." "What could have destroyed so many ships?" Sira asked quietly. "I do not know," Dr. Thex admitted. "But whatever it was powerful beyond imagination." Kale studied the wreckage through the viewport. Among the alien ships he noticed something strange. A pattern. The ships were not scattered randomly as they should have been after a battle. They were arranged in a spiral, pointing toward a single point in space. "They are showing us the way," he realized. "This is not just a battlefield, it is a sign." The team followed the spiral of ancient ships deeper into the void. For 3 more days they traveled, the wreckage growing older and stranger with each passing hour. Finally, they emerged from the debris field and found themselves facing a sight that took their breath away. A planet hung in space before them, but it was unlike any planet they had ever seen. It was perfectly smooth, its surface made of some kind of metallic substance that reflected the light of distant stars like a mirror. And at its center, visible even from orbit, stood a structure so vast that it made the greatest cities of the Alliance look like toys. "The Nexus Gate," Kale whispered. The structure rose from the planet's surface like a mountain made of light. It was a door, Kale realized, a door so large that entire fleets could pass through it. Strange symbols covered its surface, glowing with an inner fire that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. "I am detecting massive energy readings," Dr. Thex reported. "The power contained in that structure could fuel the entire Alliance for 1,000,000 years. It is incredible." "I am also detecting something else," said Rax, the ship's Kesari engineer. His small hands flew over his console. "Ships, many ships. They are on the other side of the planet." Kale's heart sank. "Vorn." "Vorn," Rax confirmed. "At least 50 warships and more arriving every hour. They are already here, Commander. They have already begun trying to open the gate." The team gathered in the ship's small briefing room to discuss their options. The news was grim. The Vorn fleet was massive, far larger than anything the Last Hope could hope to fight. And according to Dr. Thex's analysis, they had already started drilling into the planet's surface, trying to access the gate's control systems by force. "We have maybe 2 days before they break through," Dr. Thex said. "Once they access the gate's core, they will be able to activate it, and once they activate it..." She trailed off, unable to finish. "Then we have 2 days to stop them," Kale said simply. "How?" asked Lieutenant Marcus Chen, one of the human soldiers. "We cannot fight 50 warships with one small transport. We cannot sneak past their patrols. We cannot call for reinforcements because we are too far from Alliance space. We have no options, Commander." "We have one option," Kale replied. "We go down to the surface and find another way in." The briefing room fell silent. Everyone knew what Kale was suggesting. The Vorn were drilling at one location, but the planet was enormous. There might be other entrances, other ways to reach the gate's core, but finding them would mean landing on the planet under the noses of the Vorn fleet. "That is suicide," Chen said flatly. Perhaps, Kale agreed. But suicide with a chance of success is better than sitting here and watching the galaxy die. Sierra stood up. I will go with you. So will I, said Dr. Thex. One by one, the others rose to their feet. Even Chen, who had spoken against the plan, nodded his acceptance. They were scared, Kale could see that, but they were also determined. They had come too far to turn back now. Then it is settled, Kale said. We land tonight. The descent to the planet's surface was the most terrifying experience of Kale's life. The last hope dropped through the darkness like a falling stone, running silent with all systems powered down to avoid detection. Around them, Vorn ships patrolled the sky, their searchlights cutting through the blackness like hungry eyes. Contact in 30 seconds, Rax whispered from the pilot's seat. 20 seconds, 10. The ship touched down in a valley between two metallic mountains, far from the Vorn drilling site. For a long moment, everyone held their breath, waiting for alarms, waiting for the flash of weapons fire. But nothing came. They had made it. Surface temperature is stable, Dr. Thex reported. Atmosphere is breathable, though barely. We should be able to move without environmental suits, but I recommend staying indoors as much as possible. Kale nodded. We move out in teams. Sierra Chen, you are with me. Dr. Thex, take Rax and search for any technology we can use. Everyone else, secure the ship and be ready for a quick evacuation. The surface of the planet was eerie and silent. Nothing grew here, nothing lived. The metallic ground beneath their feet was warm to the touch, pulsing with the same rhythm as the gate itself. It was as if the entire planet was alive, waiting for something. They walked for hours, searching for any sign of an entrance. The terrain was difficult, full of ridges and valleys that seemed to shift when you were not looking at them. More than once, Kale had the strange sensation that they were being watched. Commander, Sierra said suddenly, look at this. She was pointing at a section of the ground that looked different from the rest. It was smoother, marked with the same symbols that covered the gate itself. Kale knelt down and brushed away a layer of metallic dust. It is a door, he realized. Or it used to be. It has been sealed for a very long time. Can we open it? Chen asked. Kale studied the symbols carefully. They were unlike any language he knew, but somehow, looking at them, he felt a strange sense of familiarity. As if he had seen them before, in a dream or a memory that was not quite his own. Without thinking, he reached out and touched one of the symbols. The world exploded with light. When Kale opened his eyes, he was no longer on the planet's surface. He was floating in an endless white void, surrounded by stars that seemed close enough to touch, and standing before him was a figure made of pure light. You have come at last, the figure said. Its voice was neither male nor female, neither young nor old. It was the voice of the universe itself, speaking directly into Kale's mind. We have waited so long. Who are you? Kale asked. His voice sounded small and weak in the vastness of the void. We are the architects, the figure replied, or what remains of us. We built the gate billions of years ago when the universe was young and full of potential. We built it to be a doorway to a better future, a future where all beings could live in peace and harmony. What happened? The figure flickered with what might have been sadness. We made a mistake. We thought we could control the power of creation itself, but power corrupts, even the power of gods. We fought among ourselves, and in our fighting we nearly destroyed everything. The battle you passed through, the one that left those ancient ships floating in the void, that was our war, our shame. And the gate? The gate survived, the figure said. We locked it away and hid the keys across the galaxy, hoping that one day a worthy being would find them and use the gate's power to finally bring peace. Kale shook his head. I am not worthy, I am just a soldier. I have killed people, I have failed people, I am nothing. You are human, the figure said softly. That is enough. I do not understand. The figure drifted closer, and Kale felt warmth wash over him like a wave. "We have watched your species, Kale Vorath. We have watched you grow from simple creatures on a small blue world to become something remarkable. You are fragile, yes. You are short-lived. You have no natural weapons, no special abilities, but you have something that no other species in the galaxy possesses." "What is that?" "Courage," the figure replied. "True courage. You face your fears not because you do not feel them, but because you refuse to let them control you. You keep fighting not because you think you will win, but because giving up is worse than losing. You hope not because you are naive, but because hope is all that stands between existence and oblivion." The void around them began to shift, showing images of human history. Kale saw his ancestors crawling out of the sea, learning to walk upright, discovering fire. He saw them building cities and exploring oceans and reaching for the stars. He saw them facing plagues and wars and disasters, and always getting back up again. "The Vorn are powerful," the figure continued. "They have conquered 1,000 species, destroyed 1,000,000 worlds, but they have never faced an enemy like humanity. They do not understand what you are capable of." "And what am I capable of?" Kale asked. The figure smiled, and the white void began to fade. "Find the relic," it said. "The sacred relic that we hid at the heart of the gate. With it, you will have the power to end this war forever. But be warned, the relic will test you. It will show you your darkest fears and your deepest failures. Only someone with true courage can claim it." "Wait," Kale called out. "How do I find it? How do I?" But the vision was already fading. The last thing he saw was the figure raising its hand in farewell, and the last thing he heard was a whisper in his mind. "Follow the light, Kale Vorath, and do not be afraid." When Kale opened his eyes, he was back on the planet's surface. Sira and Chen were kneeling over him, their faces pale with worry. "Commander," Sira exclaimed, "are you all right? You touched that symbol and collapsed. You have been unconscious for nearly an hour." Kale sat up slowly. His head was spinning, but his mind was clearer than it had ever been. He understood now. He understood everything. "I know where we need to go," he said. "I know how to find the relic. Follow me." He stood up and began to walk, not toward the sealed door, but toward the gate itself. Somewhere in its heart, the sacred relic was waiting, and Kale was finally ready to claim it. The journey to the heart of the gate was unlike anything Kale had experienced. After his vision, he found that he could read the ancient symbols as easily as his own language. They guided him through hidden passages and secret tunnels, leading him deeper and deeper into the planet's metallic crust. Sira and Chen followed close behind, their weapons ready. The tunnels were dark and silent, lit only by the faint glow of the symbols on the walls. Strange sounds echoed in the distance, whispers and hums that seemed to come from the planet itself. "This place is alive," Sira whispered. "I can feel it watching us." "It is not watching us," Kale replied. "It is testing us. Every step we take, every choice we make, it is measuring our worth." "Measuring us for what?" Chen asked nervously. "To see if we deserve the relic." They had been walking for hours when they encountered the first trial. The tunnel opened into a vast chamber filled with mist. In the center of the chamber stood a figure that made Kale's blood run cold. It was himself. Or rather, it was a version of himself, older and crueler, with eyes that burned with hatred. This other Kale wore a Vorn uniform, and his hands were stained with blood. "Do you know who I am?" the figure asked in Kale's own voice. "You are not real," Kale said, but his voice shook. "I am very real," the figure replied with a smile. "I am what you could become. I am what you will become if you continue down this path. You think you are a hero, but you are just a killer in disguise. How many Vorn have you killed, Kale? How many enemy soldiers have died by your hand? Are you really any different from them? The Vorn destroyed Earth. They murdered billions of innocent people. Fighting them is not the same as what they do." "Is it?" The figure stepped closer, and Kale saw that its uniform was stained with human blood, not Vorn. You tell yourself that you are fighting for a righteous cause, but deep down you know the truth. You enjoy it. You enjoy the killing, the power, the feeling of being in control. That is why you keep fighting, not because you believe in the Alliance, but because war is the only thing that makes you feel alive. Kale felt his hands trembling. The figure's words cut deep because part of him feared they were true. He had been fighting for so long, had killed so many, that sometimes he could not remember who he had been before the war. Had he ever been anything other than a soldier? "Commander," Sira said softly, "do not listen to it, it is lying." "Is she right, Kale?" the figure taunted. "Or is she just telling you what you want to hear? You know the truth. You have always known. You are a monster just like the Vorn. The only difference is that your victims do not have blue skin." Kale closed his eyes. The figure's words washed over him like a wave of poison, trying to drag him down into despair. But somewhere, deep in his heart, a small voice whispered that this was the test. This was what the architects had warned him about. He thought about all the people he had fought to protect, the civilians he had evacuated from dying worlds, the soldiers who had trusted him with their lives, the friends he had lost and the friends who were still alive because of him. He was not perfect. He had made mistakes. He had done things that haunted him, but that did not make him a monster. "You are right," Kale said quietly. The figure smiled in triumph. "So you admit it, you are." "I am a killer," Kale continued. "I have blood on my hands that will never wash off. I have done terrible things in the name of survival, but I am not you. I am not the person you are trying to make me become. I fight because I have to, not because I want to. And as long as there are people who need protecting, I will keep fighting, no matter how much it costs me." The figure's smile faded. "Pretty words, but words do not change what you are." "No," Kale agreed, "actions do." He stepped forward through the figure, and it dissolved like mist in the sunlight. The chamber faded away, and they found themselves in another tunnel, this one brighter than the last. "That was intense," Chen muttered. "What the hell was that thing?" "It was a test," Sira said. "The gate is reading us, learning who we are." It showed Kale his greatest fear. "Then what is it going to show us?" They did not have to wait long to find out. The second trial came for Chen. The tunnel opened into another chamber, and this time it was filled with the bodies of everyone Chen had ever loved. His family from Earth, killed in the Vorn invasion. His squadmates from the Battle of Three Suns, cut down one by one. And standing among them, pointing an accusing finger, was Chen's younger brother. "You let us die," the brother said. His voice echoed with pain and betrayal. "You were supposed to protect us, but you ran. You saved yourself while we burned." Chen fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. "I tried," he sobbed. "I tried to save you, but there were too many. I could not." "You could have done more. You could have fought harder, but you were scared, and so we died." Kale watched as Chen struggled against the vision. He wanted to help, but he knew that this was Chen's trial, not his. The younger soldier had to face his demons alone. For a long moment it seemed like Chen would give in. He was shaking with grief, unable to look away from the accusing eyes of his dead brother. But then, slowly, something changed. Chen's shoulders straightened, his jaw set, and when he spoke, his voice was steady. "You are right," Chen said. "I was scared. I ran when I should have stayed, and I will carry that guilt for the rest of my life. But running away does not mean I stopped fighting. Every day since then, I have fought for people I will never meet, protected worlds I will never see, all because I could not save you. You are dead and nothing will bring you back. But your deaths gave my life meaning. They made me into the soldier I am today." He stood up, looking the vision of his brother directly in the eyes. "I will not let you drag me down. I will honor your memory by being better, not by drowning in guilt. Goodbye." The chamber dissolved, and Chen stumbled forward, catching himself on the tunnel wall. Sira helped him up, and Kale clapped him on the shoulder. "Well done," Kale said quietly. Chen wiped his eyes. I never thought I would have to face that, but I am glad I did. I feel lighter, like I have been carrying a weight for years and finally put it down. That is what these trials are for, Kale realized. Not to break us, but to heal us. The architects wanted to make sure that whoever found the relic was worthy, but they also wanted to give us a gift, the chance to face our deepest wounds and move past them. Sierra was quiet, and Kale noticed that she was trembling slightly. Then my trial is coming next, she said. I do not know if I am ready. You are, Kale told her. You are one of the strongest people I have ever known. Whatever the gate shows you, you will face it, and you will win. Sierra's trial was the hardest to watch. The tunnel opened into a perfect recreation of the last human colony in the galaxy. It was a small settlement, hidden away on a forgotten moon, where a few thousand humans had gathered after the fall of Earth. Kale recognized it immediately. It was the place where Sierra had grown up. And it was burning. No, Sierra whispered. Not this, please, not this. Vorn soldiers moved through the flames, killing everyone they found. Sierra's parents, her friends, her little sister, only 5 years old, crying out for help that would never come. And in the middle of it all stood Sierra herself, not the adult Sierra who had become a soldier, but the teenage Sierra who had survived the massacre by hiding in a closet while everyone she loved died. You hid, the younger Sierra said accusingly. You could have helped them, you could have saved them, but you were too afraid to even try. Adult Sierra fell to her knees. The screams of the dying filled the air, the same screams that had haunted her nightmares for 15 years. She covered her ears, trying to block them out, but they only grew louder. I was just a child, she sobbed. I could not fight them, I could not. You could have done something, anything, but you chose to live while they died. Kale wanted to intervene, but he held himself back. This was Sierra's battle. She had to fight it alone. The screams grew louder. The flames grew brighter. Sierra curled into a ball, overwhelmed by guilt and grief. And then, just when it seemed like she would break, something changed. She thought of Kale. She thought of Chen. She thought of all the battles she had fought since that terrible day, all the lives she had saved, all the people who were still alive because of her. She had spent 15 years trying to make up for her survival, and she had done incredible things. She had become the soldier her younger self could never have imagined. You are right, Sierra said, lifting her head. I hid, I survived, and I have hated myself for it every single day. But you know what? I am done hating myself. I survived so that I could keep fighting. I survived so that the next time someone's family is threatened, there will be someone there to help. My survival was not a betrayal of you. It was a gift, and I will not waste it any longer. She stood up, facing the burning colony and the ghost of her younger self. I forgive you, she said, and she was not talking to the ghost. She was talking to herself. I forgive you for surviving. I forgive you for being afraid. And I promise I will never stop fighting for the people who need me. The flames died. The screams faded. The younger Sierra smiled just for a moment, and then she was gone. The chamber dissolved, and the three of them stood together in a tunnel of pure light. We did it, Chen breathed. We passed the trials. Not yet, Kale said. He pointed ahead, where the tunnel opened into a vast chamber filled with brilliant golden light. There is one more challenge, the final test. They walked forward together, ready to face whatever awaited them. And as they stepped into the golden light, Kale felt something stir in his chest, something ancient, something powerful. The relic was calling to him, and he was finally ready to answer. The final chamber was beyond anything they could have imagined. It stretched for miles in every direction, filled with structures and machines so vast and complex that the mind refused to comprehend them. Rivers of light flowed through the air like water, connecting enormous crystalline towers that hummed with power. And at the very center of it all, floating in a sphere of golden radiance, was the sacred relic. Kale stopped and stared. The relic was not what he had expected. It was not a weapon or a tool or a magical artifact. It was a seed. A tiny, perfect seed made of something that looked like liquid starlight, no bigger than the tip of his finger. "That is it?" Chen asked, sounding disappointed. "That little thing is supposed to save the galaxy." "Size means nothing to the architects," Kale replied softly. "They could create stars with a thought and destroy worlds with a whisper. A seed like this could contain more power than every weapon in the Vorn fleet combined." "But how does it work?" Sira asked. "How do we use it?" Before Kale could answer, the chamber shook. Alarms began to sound and the rivers of light flickered and dimmed. Then they heard it, the sound of explosions coming from above. "The Vorn," Chen realized. "They have broken through." "We have to hurry," Kale said. "Get to the relic, I will hold them off." "Alone?" Sira grabbed his arm. "No, we go together or not at all." "There is no time," Kale replied. "The Vorn will be here in minutes. Someone has to stay and fight while the others reach the relic. It has to be me." "Why you?" Kale looked at her with eyes full of determination. "Because this is what I was born to do. All my life I have been fighting, losing, surviving. Now I finally have a chance to do something that matters. Let me take it." Sira stared at him for a long moment. Then slowly she nodded. "Come back to us," she said. "That is an order." Kale smiled. "Yes, Lieutenant." He turned and ran back toward the entrance of the chamber, leaving Sira and Chen to make their way to the relic. Behind him, he could hear the sounds of battle growing closer. The Vorn were coming. The first wave of Vorn soldiers poured into the tunnel like a flood. They were massive creatures, nearly twice the size of humans, with thick black armor and glowing red eyes. Each one carried a weapon that could tear through steel like paper. Kale met them head-on. His own weapon was a simple pulse rifle outdated by Vorn standards, but in his hands it became something more. He moved through the enemy ranks like a dancer, ducking and weaving, firing shot after shot with perfect precision. Each blast found its mark. Each movement flowed into the next. For the first time in his life, Kale felt completely at peace. "You cannot stop us," one of the Vorn snarled. "We are the masters of this galaxy. You are nothing but insects." Kale smiled grimly. "Funny thing about insects," he said. "We have a habit of surviving." He threw himself into the fight with everything he had. The odds were impossible. For every Vorn he killed, 3 more took its place. His armor was torn. His body was bleeding from a dozen wounds. But still he fought, buying time for his friends to reach the relic. Minutes passed, then hours. Kale lost track of time, lost track of everything except the next enemy, the next shot, the next breath. He was running on nothing but willpower now, his body pushed far beyond its limits. And then suddenly it was over. A golden light erupted from behind him, filling the tunnel with warmth and power. The Vorn soldiers screamed and fell back, shielding their eyes from the radiance. Kale turned and saw Sira standing at the entrance of the chamber, the relic glowing in her outstretched hand. "We did it," she said, her voice filled with wonder. "We actually did it." The relic's power flowed through her and into the chamber, healing Kale's wounds and restoring his strength. But more than that, it reached out into the galaxy itself, touching every world and every mind. The Nexus Gate began to open. It was not like anything Kale had imagined. The massive structure on the planet's surface came alive, its symbols blazing with light that could be seen across the sector. Space itself seemed to bend around it, creating a doorway to somewhere beyond understanding. And through that doorway came a voice. "Children of the galaxy," it said, and every being who heard it knew that this was the voice of the architects themselves. "The time of testing is over. You have proven yourselves worthy." On every world in the galaxy, people stopped and listened. Alliance soldiers and Vorn warriors alike stood frozen as the voice continued. "For billions of years we have watched you grow. We have seen your triumphs and your failures, your wars and your peace, your hatred and your love. And through it all, we have been waiting for this moment. The moment when someone would have the courage to face our trials and claim the power we left behind. The relic in Sira's hand pulsed, and suddenly everyone understood. The seed was not just a source of power. It was a gift, a template for a new kind of energy that could end scarcity and suffering throughout the galaxy. With it, there would be no more need for war, no more reason for one species to conquer another. "We give this gift freely," the voice said. "But know this, it cannot be owned, it cannot be controlled. It belongs to all beings equally, or it belongs to no one at all." On the Vorn flagship, Supreme Commander Zerath watched in disbelief as his fleet's weapons systems suddenly went offline. Not damaged, but simply refused to fire. Every weapon in the fleet, every ship in the armada, was rendered harmless by the relic's power. "What is happening?" Zerath demanded. "Why are our weapons not working?" The relic's Supreme Commander, one of his officers, replied, "It has neutralized our offensive capabilities, all of them." Zerath's red eyes burned with fury. "Then we will use our claws. We will board their ships and kill them with our bare hands. The Vorn do not surrender." "Supreme Commander," the officer's voice was trembling, "the relic is not just affecting us, it is affecting everything. Look." Zerath looked at the main view screen and saw something that made even his ancient heart skip a beat. Ships were arriving, thousands of them, from every corner of the galaxy. Alliance ships and neutral ships and even Vorn ships from other fleets, all converging on the Nexus Gate. And none of them were firing. "The war is over," the officer whispered, "whether we want it to be or not." In the chamber beneath the gate, Kale stood with Sira and Chen, watching the relic float between them. Its light had changed, becoming softer and warmer, spreading out to touch everyone in the room. "What happens now?" Chen asked. "Now we rebuild," Kale replied. "The relic has shown us a better way. The Vorn cannot conquer anymore, and neither can we. We have to learn to live together, all of us, or the gift will be taken back." "Do you think it is possible?" Sira asked. "After everything that has happened, after all the hatred and violence, can we really find peace?" Kale thought about it. He thought about the centuries of war, the billions of dead, the worlds reduced to ash. He thought about his own hatred for the Vorn, the rage that had burned in his heart for as long as he could remember. Then he thought about the trials he had faced, the ghost of his darker self, the forgiveness that Sira had found, the healing that Chen had experienced. If they could change, if they could let go of their pain and find something better, then maybe the galaxy could too. "I do not know," he admitted, "but I know we have to try. That is what courage is, right? Not knowing if you will succeed, but trying anyway." Sira smiled and took his hand. "Then let us try together." They walked out of the chamber and into the golden light of the open gate. Around them, ships from every species in the galaxy hung in space, waiting to see what would happen next. Kale activated his communicator, broadcasting on every frequency. "This is Commander Kale Vorath of the Galactic Alliance," he said. "I speak to everyone who can hear me, Alliance and Vorn and everyone in between. The war is over. The killing is done. We have been given a gift today, a chance to build something new. I am asking all of you to take that chance. Come to the Nexus Gate. Let us talk. Let us heal. Let us find a way forward together." For a long moment there was only silence. Then, one by one, voices began to respond. "This is the Arthani Home Fleet. We hear you, Commander. We are coming." Kasari Expeditionary Force responding. "We are with you." Dravoth Collective acknowledging. "We will join you." And then, to everyone's surprise, a Vorn voice joined in. "This is War Master Keth of the Vorn Third Fleet. I have heard your words, human. I do not trust you. I do not like you. But my weapons no longer work and my warriors are tired of dying. Perhaps it is time to talk." Kale closed his eyes and let out a breath he did not know he had been holding. It was not peace, not yet. It was barely even the beginning. But it was something. A crack in the wall, a sliver of light in the darkness. For the first time in 700 years, there was hope. The peace talks lasted for 3 months. They were held on the surface of the Gate planet, in the shadow of the great structure that had changed everything. Representatives from every species in the galaxy gathered there, sitting across from each other at tables that had been carved from the planet's metallic surface. Kale served as the mediator, though he often felt more like a referee breaking up fights than a diplomat building bridges. The Vorn were the hardest to deal with. Their entire culture was built on conquest and domination. For them, peace was not just unfamiliar, it was shameful. Many of their warriors refused to participate at all, preferring to exile themselves to the far reaches of space rather than sit at a table with their enemies. But some of them stayed. Warmaster Keth was one of them. Keth was old, even by Vorn standards. His black armor was scarred from countless battles, and one of his 4 arms was missing, lost in a fight with Alliance soldiers decades ago. But his eyes, unlike most Vorn, were not filled with hatred. They were filled with exhaustion. "You do not understand what you are asking," Keth said to Kale during one of their private meetings. "For 700 years, we have lived for war. War is our religion, our economy, our very identity. You cannot ask us to simply stop." "I am not asking you to stop being Vorn," Kale replied. "I am asking you to become something more. Your warriors are the finest in the galaxy. Your discipline, your strength, your courage, these things are valuable, but they do not have to be used for destruction. You could be builders instead of destroyers, protectors instead of conquerors." Keth laughed bitterly. "And who would we protect? We have made enemies of everyone." "Then protect the weak," Kale said. "There are millions of refugees scattered across the galaxy, people who have lost their homes and their families because of this war. They need help. They need someone to keep them safe while they rebuild their lives. Why not you?" The old Vorn stared at him for a long time. "You are a strange creature, human. Any other species would want revenge. They would want to see us punished for what we have done, but you offer us a chance at redemption instead. Why?" Kale thought about the question carefully. "Because I have seen enough death," he finally said. "I have lost friends, comrades, people I loved. For most of my life, I hated the Vorn more than anything in the galaxy. But hatred is exhausting. It eats away at you until there is nothing left. I do not want to spend the rest of my life consumed by it." He met Keth's eyes directly. "And because I believe in second chances. Every being in this galaxy has done something they regret. Every species has blood on its hands. If we cannot forgive each other, if we cannot move past our histories, then we are all doomed. The Relic gave us a gift, Warmaster. Let us use it." Keth was silent for a long moment. Then slowly he nodded. "I will bring your proposal to my people. I make no promises, but I will try." The breakthrough came on the 92nd day. Keth returned with a document, written in both Vorn and Alliance standard, outlining a new role for his people. The Vorn would become the galaxy's peacekeepers, using their military might to protect civilians and enforce the new treaties. In exchange, they would be given territory, resources, and respect, things they had always taken by force but would now receive freely. It was not a perfect solution. Many on both sides opposed it, but it was a start. The signing ceremony took place in front of the Nexus Gate itself. Thousands of ships hung in the sky above, broadcasting the event to every world in the galaxy. High Arbiter Thalan signed for the Alliance. Warmaster Keth signed for the Vorn. And Kale Vorath, the human soldier who had started it all, stood between them as a witness. "This treaty represents more than the end of a war," Thalan said in his speech. "It represents the beginning of a new era. For too long, we have defined ourselves by our enemies. We have measured our worth by how many we could kill, how much territory we could claim, how much power we could accumulate. But those days are over. Today, we define ourselves by our ability to cooperate, to compromise, to build something greater than any of us could build alone." He turned to look at Kale, and his ancient eyes were bright with something that might have been tears. We owe this moment to a single human, a being who, by all rights, should have had every reason to hate, to seek vengeance, to continue the cycle of violence that has consumed us for centuries. Instead, he chose courage. He chose hope. He chose to believe that even his enemies could change. Commander Kale Vorath, on behalf of the Galactic Alliance and all the peoples of this galaxy, I thank you. The crowd erupted in applause. Kale felt his face burning with embarrassment. He had never been comfortable with praise. But when he looked at Sira, standing beside him with tears streaming down her face, he realized that this was not just about him. It was about everyone who had fought and died in the long war. It was about the civilians who had lost their homes and the soldiers who had lost their lives. It was about a future that none of them had dared to imagine. "Thank you, High Arbiter," Kale said when the applause died down. "But I did not do this alone. Every person in this galaxy who chose peace over war, forgiveness over revenge, hope over despair, they are the real heroes. I was just the one lucky enough to find the relic. The courage came from all of you." The months that followed were a time of rebuilding and renewal. The relic's power was distributed across the galaxy, providing clean energy to worlds that had been devastated by the war. Refugees returned to their homes or built new ones. Trade routes reopened, connecting species that had been enemies for generations. Slowly, painfully, the galaxy began to heal. Kale did not return to the military. Instead, he and Sira established a foundation to help veterans from both sides of the war. Many of them were struggling to adapt to peace, haunted by their experiences, unable to find a place in the new world they had helped create. Kale understood their pain better than anyone. "You know what is funny?" he said to Sira one night as they sat on the balcony of their small apartment on Tellara Prime. The planet had been restored, its cities rebuilt, its oceans clean once again. For most of my life, I was convinced that fighting was the only thing I was good at. I thought that when the war ended, I would have no purpose anymore. Sira smiled and leaned against him. "And now? Now I realize that fighting was just the beginning. The real work, the hard work, is what comes after, building trust, healing wounds, teaching people how to live together instead of dying apart." That sounds like something a hero would say. Kale laughed. "I am not a hero, I am just a human who got lucky." "You are more than that," Sira said seriously. "You are proof that one person can make a difference, that courage and hope are not just pretty words but forces that can change the galaxy." She pointed up at the stars, where ships from a dozen different species were passing peacefully through the night sky. "Look at what you helped create. Vorn and Arthani trading with each other. Kesari and Dravoth working together to rebuild destroyed worlds. Humans spreading out across the galaxy not as soldiers but as diplomats and teachers and healers. This is your legacy, Kale. This is what your courage made possible." Kale looked up at the stars and felt a deep sense of peace settle over him. The darkness was still out there, he knew. There would always be challenges, always be threats, always be people who preferred violence to peace. But for the first time in his life, he believed that the light was stronger. 10 years later, Kale stood in the same spot where he had first touched the ancient symbols on the Gate planet. The planet had become a place of pilgrimage now, visited by billions of beings from across the galaxy. They came to see the Nexus Gate, yes, but also to pay tribute to the people who had found it. His hair was gray now, his body slower than it used to be, but his eyes were bright and his heart was full. Beside him stood his daughter, a young woman with her mother's determination and her father's courage. She was about to leave on her first mission as a peacekeeper, following in the tradition that the Vorn had established all those years ago. "Are you nervous?" Kale asked her. "A little," she admitted. "There is a lot to live up to." Kale smiled and put his hand on her shoulder. "You do not have to live up to anything," he said. "Just be yourself, be kind, be brave. And remember that no matter what happens, courage is not about not being afraid. It is about being afraid and doing the right thing anyway." "That sounds like something from one of your speeches." It sounds like something my daughter should remember." She laughed and hugged him tight. "I will make you proud, father." "You already have," Kale whispered. "You already have." He watched her walk away, toward the ship that would carry her into the stars. And as she disappeared from view, he felt a presence beside him, warm and golden and ancient beyond imagining. "You did well, Kale Vorath," the voice of the architects whispered. "Better than we ever hoped." "I just did what needed to be done," Kale replied. "Anyone would have done the same." "No," the voice said gently. "That is the point. Not everyone would have. Most beings, when faced with the darkness in their own hearts, choose to turn away. They give in to fear, to hatred, to despair. But you did not. You faced your demons and found something precious on the other side. That is what makes you special. Not your strength or your intelligence, but your willingness to be vulnerable, your willingness to hope." Kale was quiet for a moment. "Will there be more wars?" he asked. "More conflicts, more suffering?" "Always," the voice admitted. "The galaxy is vast and its peoples are diverse. There will always be disagreements, always be struggles. But there will also always be beings like you, beings who choose courage over fear, who choose love over hate. As long as they exist, the light will never go out." The presence began to fade, but before it vanished completely, it spoke one last time. "Thank you, Kale Vorath. Thank you for showing us that our faith in humanity was not misplaced. Your people are young, fragile, short-lived, but you have something that no other species possesses. You have the ability to hope in the face of hopelessness, to fight when all seems lost, to love when loving is the hardest thing of all. Never lose that. It is the most precious gift in the universe." And then the presence was gone, leaving Kale alone on the surface of the gate planet. He stood there for a long time, watching the ships pass overhead, thinking about all the things he had experienced and all the people he had known. The war was over. The galaxy was at peace. And somewhere out there, his daughter was carrying on his legacy, spreading hope to worlds he would never see. Kale smiled. It was enough. It was more than enough. It was everything.